Thank you all very much. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for that warm welcome. And you know, as president, I have certain privileges. So I checked with President O'Neill, and I'm delighted to announce that starting Monday night, you all have 4 weeks off. But here at UVA, we are surrounded with memories of Thomas Jefferson. One of my staff mentioned that Thomas Jefferson's favorite recreation was horseback riding, and I said he was a wise man. And another member of the staff said that Thomas Jefferson thought the White House was a noble edifice, and I said he was a man of refined taste. And a third member noted that after retiring as president, Thomas Jefferson, in his 70s, didn't sit back and rest, but founded the University of Virginia. And I said, there's always an overachiever who makes it hard for the rest of us. But no speaker can come to these grounds or see the lawn without appreciating the symmetry, not just of the architecture, but of the mind that created it. The man to whom that mind belonged is known to you as Mr. Jefferson, and I think the familiarity of that term is justified. His influence here is everywhere. And yet, while those of you at UVA are fortunate to have before you physical reminders of the power of your founder's intellect and imagination, it should be remembered that all you do here, indeed all of higher education in America, bears signs too of his transforming genius. The pursuit of science, the study of the great works, the value of free inquiry, in short, the very idea of living the life of the mind. Yes, these formative and abiding principles of higher education in America had their first and firmest advocate and their greatest embodiment in a tall, fair-headed, friendly man who watched this university take form from the mountainside where he lived. The university whose founding he called a crowning achievement to a long and well-spent life. Well, you're not alone in feeling his presence. Presidents know about this too. You've heard many times that during the first year of his presidency, John F. Kennedy said to a group of Nobel laureates in the state dining room of the White House that there had not been such a collection of talent in that place since Jefferson dined there alone. And directly down the lawn and across the ellipse from the White House are those ordered classic lines of the Jefferson Memorial and the eyes of the 19-foot statue that gazed directly into the White House. A reminder to any of us who might occupy that mansion of the quality of mind and generosity of heart that once abided there and so rarely seen there again. But it's not just students and presidents. It is every American, indeed, every human life ever touched by the daring idea of self-government that Mr. Jefferson has influenced. Yes, Mr. Jefferson was obliged to admit all previous attempts at popular government had proven themselves failures. But he believed that here on this continent, as one of his commentators put it, here was virgin soil, an abundance of land, no degrading poverty, a brave and intelligent people which had just vindicated its title to independence after a long struggle with the mightiest of European powers. Well, here was another chance, an opportunity for enlightened government, government based on the principles of reason and tolerance, government that left to the people the fruits of their labor and the pursuit of their own definition of happiness in the form of commerce or education or religion. And so it's no wonder he asked that his epitaph read simply, "Here was born Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, of the Statute of Virginia for religious freedom, and father of the University of Virginia." Well, as that epitaph shows, for all his learning and bookishness, Mr. Jefferson was a practical man, a man who made things like a university, a state government, a national government. In founding and sustaining these institutions, he wanted them to be based on the same symmetry, the same balance of mind, and faith in human creativity evidenced in the lawn. He had known personal tragedy. He knew how disorderly a place the world could be. Indeed, as a leader of a rebellion, he was himself an architect, if you will, of disorder. But he also believed that man had received from God a precious gift of enlightenment, the gift of reason, a gift that could extract from the chaos of life meaning, truth, order. Just as we see in his architecture, the balancing of circular with linear, of rotunda with pillar, we see in his works of government the same disposition toward balance, toward symmetry and harmony. He knew successful self-government meant bringing together disparate interests and concerns, balancing, for example, on the one hand, the legitimate duties of government, the maintenance of domestic order and protection from foreign menace, with government's tendency to preempt its citizens' rights, take the fruits of their labors and reduce them ultimately to servitude. So he knew that governing meant balance, harmony, and he knew from personal experience the danger posed to such harmony by the voices of unreason, special privilege, partisanship, or intolerance. And I do mean personal experience. You see, despite all of George Washington's warnings about the divisiveness of the partisan spirit, Federalists and Republicans were constantly at each other in those days. The Federalists of the Northeast had held power for a long time and were not anxious to relinquish it. Years later, a New York congressman honored the good old days when, as he put it, a Federalist could knock a Republican down to the streets of New York and not be questioned about it. Now, the Federalists referred to Mr. Jefferson as, and here I quote, a mean-spirited, low-lived fellow raised wholly on hot cake made of coarse ground Southern corn, bacon, and hominy, with an occasional fricasseed bullfrog. Well, by the way, was the 1800 equivalent of what I believe is known here as UVA as a Gusburger? And an editorial in the Federalist Connecticut Courant also announced that as soon as Mr. Jefferson was elected, murder, robbery, rape, and adultery and incest will be openly taught and practiced. Well, that was politics in 1800. So you see, not all that much has changed.